My name is Edwin Beche. I'm the founder and CEO of Helen Technology. Today, I have my guest, Karen Gray. Karen is an business coach, brand consulting, helping high profile leaders scale up or off the corporate ladders to create a life that they don't need to escape from. Karen, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So good to be here. Thank you.
Well, yeah, welcome to the headliners, right? That's good. Awesome. Everything good? You staying off the heat where you are? Is it like too hot also over there, or is it like a little bit better?
No, I'm in Dallas, Texas area. So it is
Right?
absolutely brutal heat. We need rain so bad, but um luckily I have a job where I work indoors, so I feel pretty spoiled and blessed.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's good.
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's before we jump in further, probably like when people hear Karen,
Oh
they
yeah,
associate with that. What's going? Oh, like here we got Karen.
let's go
You
there
you
first
get
thing.
frustrated? Hmm?
I said let's go there first thing. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the
Yeah,
Karen in
yeah.
the room.
Hmm.
Um, I don't get frustrated, especially if they don't know me, but I
Yeah.
do get frustrated when my teenager uses it. So,
So your teenager trying to be like, oh,
oh
like
yeah,
when you're trying to discipline them, they're like, okay, Karen.
yeah, exactly. Or he says, "Quit being a Karen." So I think it's funny
Yeah,
that names have been attached to different meanings throughout the years. You know, but I love the opportunity where I get to challenge the social status with that name, and I get to be the kind Karen in the room. But I do when I go through a drive-through, they're like, "Can I get a name for your order?"
mhm.
I give them somebody else's name.
You know what I say,
Full
Karen?
disclosure, I give them someone else's name. If my
Yeah,
husband's in the car, I give him his name.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but because, people make assumptions based on that, and I think that's a great example just for everything in society, especially that we make assumptions about people
yeah,
that probably aren't true.
yeah,
But there's a lot of people in the world that behave that way, and
yeah.
um,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Mhm.
human is always like something like where I don't know, like their mind to comprehend something. Just I don't know, maybe the way they're raised or whatever it is. Just we
Yeah,
human. Yeah,
I think that the the social interactions that we have now, now we have computers and we can order something and we get instant gratification and we get instant this and we stay behind a computer and a keyboard. We call them keyboard bullies.
yeah, yeah,
And people create this certain expectation that everyone should accommodate them.
yeah.
And I believe that that's really changed. I don't think society was like that maybe when I was a kid growing
Yeah,
up. People
that's
didn't
true.
behave that way because there was immediate social response to that where it was unaccepted, and now it's almost expected behavior that people are going to behave that way. So I find it sad. So I try very hard to be different, to be kind and very patient and very accommodating. People make mistakes, they're human,
Yeah,
but there is an expectation that uh, everyone should meet my needs, right?
yeah,
We have
yeah,
that in the world these days in business and in relationships, and I feel like it's really a detriment
yeah.
to it's counterproductive.
Is it there's speaking of like social media
Mhm.
bullying or just troll? Um, I always say that like when I was growing up, it was easy to know a crazy person. Like you'd be like, you know what, that's a crazy person. I don't want to talk to them. Like right now online, like let's say me and you were friends, and then you have friends of your friends. Then I become just trying to be friend with them online, but I don't know if they are really personality. But it's
Mhm.
like maybe from there, then they kind of dragged into the third, fourth person. Uh, Maybe you say something on a post because I know your sense of humor. Then I will comment and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And then the third, fourth person who know you, but they don't know our relationship, they start talking, arguing. Before you know it, you're arguing with a crazy person that you could avoid it before.
Yeah, and isn't that some of the good and the bad that's come out of the COVID situation?
Mhm.
So now in a world before, well, let's say before, I would have never had an opportunity to know you because
Exactly.
you don't live in Dallas, you don't run in the same circles as I do.
That's
So
true.
now I
Yeah.
have, because of social media and because of podcasts and the computer
Mhm.
metaverse, we have
Mhm.
an opportunity to know and interact with people we would never have, that our ancestors would never have had an opportunity to know.
Exactly.
And so there's cultural differences, there's um, linguistical differences. I may say a word and it means something totally different to you,
Mhm.
but rather than having a little bit of toleration for people's differences, we assume everyone's like us. And
Exactly.
so we operate from that
Yeah.
place, and it really gets us into some sticky situations where something that maybe in my circles, like you said, with people that know me, they
Yeah.
know that there's a level of sarcasm or humor there, and
Mhm.
other people find it offensive because they take it so literal or take it from their perspective. And
Exactly.
so there really is this ebb and flow of the good and the bad. And I hate to say things are good or bad, but
Mhm.
there's the positive and the negative things that can come out of this social world that we need to have a little bit more grace and patience for people
True.
because we make a lot of assumptions.
Yeah. 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 That's true. I'm excited to have you here with at the headliners.
Thank you.
So I know you're a coach and you help a lot of businesses. Maybe let's jump into that.
Okay.
Can you walk me through? Do you like maybe from um, let's do this first. I know normally it's like how we kind of jumped in just kind of talking about the
We
name.
did. We started with the Karen thing. You just knocked it out of the park right away.
Kind of got drifted on the way. Let's go back. Can you tell me a history a little bit, maybe like where you grew up, like how was your upbringing, and then how
Mm.
do you, like from there to maybe something interesting while you're growing up, something funny, something maybe horrible. How did you get out of that kind of? So let's go way back and people to kind of maybe just kind of get to know you a little bit.
Okay. So my story began, I was born in New Mexico. I was actually adopted
Hmm.
when I was a month old, and my parents that adopted me, they worked for a gas company, and the gas company had company housing out on the reservation. So I actually grew up on the Indian reservation in northwestern New Mexico.
Okay.
And it was first off, it was the Hickory Apache, and then we moved into the Navajo reservation, and it was absolutely well, sorry for my Navajo friends, the Dene reservation,
Mhm.
but it was absolutely the best place to grow up. There was it was like a small community, small family. I had my parents, but really I had 50 parents because you couldn't go anywhere and get
Mhm.
into any trouble without everybody knowing
Like
because it was such a
raised by a village kind of type.
yes, it was a village, exactly, it was a
Yeah.
village, and so I grew
Yeah.
up very, very
Yeah.
independent and
Yeah.
lots of, lots of friends to play with, and, the school that I went to was K through 8th grade, and then after 8th grade, you had to go into town, and a 60-mile drive to go to the little tiny community town. So, um,
I'm really intrigued or kind of like really interested to kind of learn more about that because I grew up in Africa in a village, right?
mm,
So where it's like grew up to like maybe I was 12. I never
mhm.
had shoes, right? So when someone say like they grew up in reservation, I'm picturing is that almost kind of type like where there's no electricity, you have like cows, cattle, and all kind of like. What is it like? How is it like growing up like in the
It's
village?
very, very different from that, but,
Mhm,
on the reservation, there are if you weren't in the company camp, literally on the reservation, there were many families that didn't have electricity.
okay.
So the, Native Americans there, they had different means for supplying, you know, electricity
Mhm,
to their homes, and they'd haul water and things like that. We were very fortunate that the gas company brought in electricity, so we had electric, we had all the things. We were very, very fortunate in that regard.
okay.
But there, the traditional people who lived on the land around us were very much in that situation. They raised sheep, and so they had sheep. They had in the reservation around us. They lived in hogans, so
Mhm,
that's their mud houses
yeah.
that they lived on in the Hickory Apache Reservation, or they lived in their pueblos, and so that would be like their own little village on the reservation that
Yeah.
were, their homes. So very, very different. My school, the people that I lived with was the population was around a third Anglo or white, a third Hispanic or Spanish, and then a third Navajo. And so it was a very diverse population in that regard. And so I just
Integrated together, they work together, kind of. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, our kids that we went to school together. And so it was very, and because it was so remote, everybody worked together. It was
Mhm,
one big family,
yeah.
and it was just it was I didn't know that I was any different than anybody else because we just worked together.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't until I grew up and moved away for college, that I really experienced,
Then
um
you got exposed to the hate of the world.
yeah, the racism that
Like,
exists.
yeah,
I moved to Florida and went to Florida State,
yeah.
and for the first time was called a white girl, and I was like, "What?
What's going
I'm
on?
wh"
Yeah.
It was almost like, "I'm white? What?" You
Yeah.
know, I had never really been put in that situation where I knew being a color was different, good, bad, indifferent. I just
Yeah.
didn't I wasn't raised like that. I had people of all faiths. We had
Yeah.
a church that had all faiths coming in and all colors, and we had people at every holiday that weren't part of our family that came in, and all colors, and it just I didn't see that. I never judged people by that or even judge people. It just wasn't part of my nature. So
Yeah.
I feel very blessed to have grown up that way because that's who I am at my core
Yeah. Yeah.
and who I still am to this day.
You know,
I
it's
judge
which
people by their character.
yeah, which is we is almost kind of similar the way I grew up when I from the village moving to this to the town or the city.
Mhm.
We grew up like I had like my classmate were Indian or like Arab, but also you have like white people. But it's like you're white, okay, you're black, okay. Like there's no like oh
Yeah.
because maybe you're better. So it was no until I came here. I remember even the family friends that I lived with. They're like, listen, you have to be careful. You don't have to be too smiling to everybody because not everybody gonna be like, you I don't know, the way kind of explained it,
Mhm.
I was like, what are you talking about? But then I start noticing slowly, I start learning like the American culture. I was like, oh, that's and I lived in this is like you would say like a rich white neighborhood. That's where my family friendly lived. They lived by the golf course, and I would walk their dog, and I would see people staring at me. So I didn't know. I was always like, oh, they're just looking at me because I'm walking with a dog. But I did
Yeah.
not know at that time people are looking at me strange. So it's like it's a
Just
whole. You kind of
it's
like you
ignorance.
yeah, it's like you don't understand once you start
Mhm.
kind of be like, oh, this is how they think. Like what is it? Like their brain
Yeah.
hasn't matured enough. They have not been exposed to like
They That's exactly it. It's ignorance. They haven't been exposed to it, so it's the different, right? Someone that's different, they weren't exposed to a lot of differences, and
yeah,
so it's unfamiliar, so they don't feel safe.
yeah,
It's their own ignorance and lack of trust in humanity, and I find it so sad.
And I guess you find also there are some other either media or some other people feeding them this
Oh,
wrong information. Like, yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of
That's
yeah,
that's the other side of the whole thing, especially in America. I don't know other
yeah,
nations or countries, but
yeah.
I know in America, our media, the news, they push division and an agenda that,
Yeah. And
different is bad, and it's not.
yeah,
Like, people
yeah,
it's just like, look at, a litter of puppies, right? That mama may have a litter of puppies, and this puppy's yellow, and that puppy's black, and this puppy's red, and this puppy's spotted, and this puppy like, she loves all the puppies.
yeah, yeah.
They're
The-
just colors on the outside, like, on the inside, they're all still puppies. Her
yeah.
puppies.
Yeah, there's a saying I use like saying we are all flowers in one garden, right?
Yeah.
Like red, whatever, orange, yellow, but all flowers in one garden. And I was about to mention also another thing. So from there, growing up there, so you go to college, right?
Yeah,
So
I went through some things and, actually had a son really young, and
mhm.
so graduated high school, had my son, and then ended up in Florida, Tallahassee at Florida State University, and lived there for 11 years,
Well, wait.
and
Let's go back. Were you like you left the reservation? You got to
sorry,
Florida.
yeah, so I
You're
left
like party
so
over here. You got exposed to a new experience. You're like, yeah, party.
yeah, well, my dad, actually, by the time I got into about the same time, about 12 years old, my dad, took a different position within the company, and we moved closer to town.
Yeah.
To the town was in the Four Corners area of New Mexico near Farmington and Bloomfield, and I went to Bloomfield schools.
Mhm.
So we actually moved into Bloomfield by the time I was 12. Um,
Were you a good teenager, or were you like
I
not
was
listening to?
I was, both. I was a
Good
good
then.
student. I was in dance and in band. I played the trumpet.
Yeah.
And super, academic. School came easy to me,
Yeah.
and, but because I had gone to school at this little tiny school, I had actually gone through a couple grades in 1 year, and so I was young compared to my peers.
Yeah.
So I was the youngest one in my class, and, really emotionally and mentally had not matured to the point that they were, so I did some things that, pretty naive about some things of the world, and, uh just because of my adoption story, I had some wounds that I wasn't even aware of that I was trying to fix and fill as a
Yeah.
young woman, um, without really any support or training on how to help that, how to fix that, how to avoid certain situations. So I did
Yeah.
end up getting pregnant, my senior year in high school, and had my son the month after I graduated. And his father and I were married. We moved to Florida. And that's how I ended up in Tallahassee.
Was family supportive? Like, oh, they were like,
Yeah. Oh, my family was yeah, very loving, very supportive. I had a great
yeah.
childhood. I had a great family support.
Mhm.
Um, and just I don't know. I don't have a lot of I could we could all complain about things,
Yeah.
but I don't regret any of that because it's made me who I am today, and it built muscles of empathy that I wouldn't have had
Exactly.
otherwise.
Yeah.
So everything along the way has created me to have the experiences that I have, and the empathy and understanding that I have for different people in different situations, hard, good, bad, indifferent.
Do you still have family or friends that lives in on the reservation still, or do you?
I do.
So do you go there visit kind of?
I go back to I don't go to the reservations to visit. I go to go back to the canyon. It
Okay.
was Largo Canyon and, Chaco Canyon in the New Mexico. Love to go there. Absolutely love to go there. It's very, probably like for you, if going back, it's almost like it's a spiritual thing. There's a
Yes.
connection, an ancestral connection.
Mhm.
Even though my ancestors didn't come from there, I'm tied to there, and that's a
Yeah, because
very
you grew up there, that's what you know. So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, it becomes you. So yeah.
Yeah, that's where my adolescent memories were running through the
Mhm.
canyons and the arroyos, and, I grew up riding my motorcycle on the reservation, like,
Yeah,
my best friend and I would stash gas cans throughout the canyon so we could keep riding, not have to go back to camp.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
just such a fun childhood, but yeah, I still have friends that live on in New Mexico in the Four Corners area, some still out on the reservation, but,
But you're a Tallahassee now. You're a Tallahassee person.
actually, I'm in Dallas now,
Oh
so
yes, I'm in Dallas. Yes, yes.
yeah, so I lived in Tallahassee for 11 years, moved back to New Mexico, and then now I'm in Dallas.
So out of those places, where do you like more, Dallas? Do you like Tallahassee? Like, what is like? I'm thinking Tallahassee by the water, right? Close, you close to the
Um,
ocean
yeah,
there.
Tallahassee is more like South Georgia because it's so far inland. It's about 30, 40 miles from the coast.
Yeah.
There's things about each place that
Mm.
I love, and I love the people in each place. I'm also very much a foodie, so there's different food in each place that I
Yeah.
love. In New Mexico, I love the green chilies and the traditional Spanish New Mexican food. In Texas, it's, the Tex-Mex and the ranches. My husband his family has a ranch in the hill country, and so there's things about Texas that I love. Um, my favorite place to get away from it is probably Colorado because I grew up near the Colorado line, and that's where we always vacationed.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a little piece of me in I think I'm very eclectic. I love
Yeah.
the beach, I love the mountains, and I love the hill country ranches.
Yeah.
So the answer
Yeah.
is yes, I love it all.
I'm thinking of like every time I think about Dallas in my head, I'm just going to her like it's a lot of like a barbecue and like tacos.
You are not wrong. It really
Yeah.
is. We take Taco Tuesday serious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So let's change gear a little bit. Let's talk about what like from this being a coach
Mhm.
for business owner or startup entrepreneur. How did you get to that? Like where like were you
Yeah.
like in a corporate world and like in a startup world? Kind of like how did you end up becoming a coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started in banking when
Mhm,
I was 18. I started as a teller, worked my way up, and was in corporate America for 27 years.
mhm,
And got my financial advisor license, and individually became a independent investment advisor. And so I became an entrepreneur with that license, and really saw the freedom that being an entrepreneur offers. So as a mom, and at the time a single mom, I could build my practice and my day and my business around my family. And that gave me a level of freedom I had never experienced working in a bank where you have to go to work, you're in a cubicle, you're there 8 to 5, and then you leave and go home. So they own your time.
yeah.
And that was something I absolutely loved, was the freedom that came with that. I'm a very free spirit, and so I love that. I started coaching in 2008 in the pageant industry. My daughter wanted to compete
Mhm,
in pageants and started, and then her coach was tragically killed in a car accident. And so I had to step in and help.
mhm,
And she did well. And so I continued coaching her, and she continued to do well and win, and ended up coaching other people and writing speeches. And it just kind of evolved. And then as those girls grew and my business grew, other people found me to coach them on other things. And it was like, okay, I could be an entrepreneur and I could coach. And then I actually met someone that did it full time as a job. And I was like, mind blown that you can help other people full time and get paid for it and make a living. Like, that was mind blowing to me, that you don't have to exchange your time for money. You can actually serve and get paid.
yeah. Yeah.
And I took all of my business acumen and experience and knowledge of finances and starting my own business, and put that with the coaching, and got certified and trained as a coach. And it just became ideally my destiny in 2020 when COVID hit and everybody transitioned and jobs were eliminated because of, companies shutting down their public facing sides. And so, I just was able to step into a role of serving and supporting people in a time where people really needed to recreate who they were. They had an opportunity, but what do I do with this opportunity? And
That's
so a lot of people started businesses at that time.
yeah, yeah. And I guess in another word, maybe just from just reading like here and there,
Mhm.
women are more in my small understanding. I don't want to sound like a jerk.
I love how you quantified that. I'm not
In my
saying I'm an
very
expert here,
small
ladies.
understanding, yeah. Um, you always feel like women are more security based, meaning they're not more of a risk taker, right? They want to go for security first, right? This thing secure. So for you to just even just jump in there, like meaning there's not a lot of women that will just be like, hey, forget the corporate world. I'm jumping
Mhm.
into my own thing. Maybe from there, what one thing that you wish all women knew about even just kind of just
Yeah,
hey, you know.
I love that question. I think that your statement is something that I want to address that first, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people assume that women don't want to take the risk, or
Mm,
they like the security, and to an extent that's true, right? We need a level of security. But if I could give any gift to women, is that the security is in your story. The security is in your ability, and that you don't have to count on another company, a job, another person, a spouse, family members, or anything else to create that security for you, that
mm,
you can do it on your own, and that the power lies within you, your story, and your ability to serve others.
mm. Yeah.
And
It's,
that goes for men too.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
women, we tend to hyper focus on what we're not
Mhm.
rather than focusing on what we are.
I was watching a video on social media. I can't remember if it was YouTube, not YouTube. I think it was more like Facebook.
Mm, mhm,
Someone made a sentence. They made a sentence say that when a man get a lot of money, they start thinking, "Oh, I can take care of a family."
mhm.
When a woman get a lot of money, they start saying, "Hey, I don't need a man."
Oh,
Do you think there's some
I'm not
truth?
gonna say that that's not true for some women. They may
Yeah,
feel that way.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna address that one. I'm gonna pass on that one.
I know it was funny when I listened to it. Um,
Yeah,
so maybe with this, with the history of you being adopted, what
yeah.
kind of helped you or impacted your confidence? Like, we just, from that experience being adopted.
Um, wow.
Mhm.
If I go back, I think there was, and I've met a lot of adoptees
Yeah.
along the years. I've coached some, and there tends to be a primal wound with an adoptee because we're separated from the birth mother.
Yeah.
So that's something instinctual that any baby that's separated from a mom tends to experience. Um, Science has proven it. There's a primal connection there because of the 9 months in the womb. Um, I was no different. So I knew that there was something missing until I found out I was adopted. I didn't know what that was.
Mhm.
But once I knew that I was adopted, then there was this feeling of, and most adoptees feel this, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Why didn't they want me? And so then there's this insecurity that I'm not enough. I'm not good. I'm not whole. There's something broken about me,
Mm.
or they would have wanted me. Even if we know the story, even if it was someone that maybe a parent passed away and then they were adopted, or they're, whatever the story is. But for me, I felt very broken that there was something wrong with me or my parents would have kept me.
Yeah.
And so it created this insecurity or inferiority feeling inside of me that I spent most of my adolescent and young adult, even into adult. Um, Probably today I still struggle with it, but I'm aware of it now, so I know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it creates this feeling of brokenness inside of us. And I found my um, biological family when I was 24, so I have a connection with them now. Um, but it's just funny, all of our subconscious inherent ideas of who we are, the rules that we create for our life, are formed in our adolescence between, birth and probably age 13 to 15.
Mhm.
And so because I didn't find them until after that, all of those things were set in place. And for most adoptees, they experience that very primal loss
Mhm.
and separation, and so they struggle with feeling good enough. So we tend to be overachievers, or we're sabotagers and self-destructors.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
So,
kind of go one extreme or the other.
so how do you escape the sabotaging part and go the other direction? Is this part of kind of searching your like biological parents, or kind of how do you end up kind of,
Yeah.
is this more
For
uh,
me, it became self-sabotaging was subconscious. I didn't intend to do any kind of self-sabotage, and I think most people don't intend to.
yeah.
Um, I went out to prove that I was good enough. Like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna prove one day I'm gonna find them and I'm gonna be good enough and they're gonna wanna keep me. They're gonna wanna have me in their life. Or subconsciously, I just didn't want this new family to ever think that I wasn't good enough. So I have to be good enough. I have to be smart enough. I have to be a great, A student and do all the good things. Um, and that became this pursuit of excellence inside of me. So I wanted to get all the things and get all the awards and do all the things and just pursue, pursue, pursue. And it never felt like whatever I did wasn't enough until I realized that I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. And
Mhm.
my story is my story. It's not good or bad, it just is.
Just
But
is,
I
yeah.
can use it to help others, and I can be good enough for myself and love myself regardless of how anybody else feels. So it became this internal pursuit of peace.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I stopped trying to achieve something and have that justify my value, and I just found value in me,
Yeah.
that became when I began to heal, true heal.
Yeah. Quick point. Maybe this maybe can help two different two ways, two wings.
Mhm.
Just the two. So for people looking to adapt,
Yeah.
um, what do you think? Or maybe also for the people maybe who have not found the success or overcame all this stuff that you're going through. So let's talk
Mhm.
about first for people who want to adapt. What advice can you give them? And also for people who maybe they might be young now, they are going through that struggle, like maybe,
Yeah.
in the teenage year. What can you tell them, how to overcome or how to be just independent person kind of in this life kind of thing?
Yeah. Wow, those are 2 totally different conversations. So,
Mhm.
for the parents looking to adopt,
Mhm.
first off, I absolutely commend you. Like, there's such a need for loving homes. Um, I think the thing that I wish my parents would have known for me, and that I would wanna share with, parents that are adopting,
Mhm.
is that there's nothing you can do to fix that wound. That wound is there, but to acknowledge it, to not hide it like it's a secret, because adoptees feel like a secret.
Mhm.
And so to make it not a secret, to say that, there's nothing you can do to fix it, but to acknowledge it and to love them and say that that they are lovable and good, and speak the words not about what they've done or that they're good because they're pretty or they're good because they're smart. Those are things that are still they have to achieve.
Yeah.
And so it's just that they're lovable as a person, that's who they are inherently, that's who God created them to be,
Mhm.
and that their love is unconditional. So I think those are the two things that an adoptee needs to know,
Yeah.
is that they're unconditionally loved. There's nothing that will ever change that.
Mhm.
And that their value is just because they're a child of God, they're created, they're here, and they have a purpose on their life.
Yes.
And they get to determine what that purpose is based on their journey, but that there's a reason
There's a reason they're
that they're
here.
here.
Yep. Yep.
And it doesn't diminish the pain that they're feeling. That's all real. But it also doesn't excuse or justify anything that they feel like they need to do to be good. That they just inherently are
Yeah.
human. You're going to have feelings that don't feel good. You're going to have feelings that are really hard. That's all the human part. It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're adopted. That's the human part of you.
Exactly. Exactly.
For someone that is adopted or that was adopted or put into foster care, that's really feeling these deep wounds because of the detachment of being away from your adopted parent or your biological parents, or that loss.
Yeah.
It's really to find the things about yourself that are lovable, to love yourself, that you are enough, that you are lovable, that you are good and kind, and that there's a plan and a purpose for your life, period. And to follow that and to find that and to find a reason to be here. For those that are struggling with even depression, manic depression, maybe suicidal thoughts, there is a reason you are here, that
Yeah.
you're good enough, and you are enough as you are today with your broken pieces. I give the example to my clients of the pottery that's been broken, and when you put it back together with these the bronze clay, the bronze clay or the gold that they do, and they reset it. They took something that was pretty before, but now it's a masterpiece. It's unique, and there's only one like it. So
Yeah.
all the broken pieces are back together, and there's a plan and a purpose, but it could be even more beautiful than it was before because of the brokenness. And
Yeah.
so you can use that experience to help others. And so, is it easy? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Life. Like life is always, yeah. So it's
yeah,
so not to feel like because it's difficult, then something is wrong with you. It's just life.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things that I experienced thinking I was the only one experiencing it, right? But we all,
Yeah.
even those of us that are, our kids that aren't adopted, family members that aren't adopted, they still go through feelings of insecurity. Maybe
Exactly.
it's from a different place or a different reason,
Mhm.
but that's our humanness.
Yeah.
That's just being a human and just being a kid. Because being a kid, especially, I can't imagine growing up these days with what my children are facing.
Yeah.
um so much harder. So
So
just
much exposure to so much this stuff just coming at
mhm,
you, like, yeah. So you trying to compare yourself with people who are only posting the happy time, but they're not showing
right,
their struggle. And so it's like,
yeah, so
yes, so
hard,
much, yeah, yeah.
so
So
hard.
yeah, yeah. Let's switch gear and talk about your you being a coach for
Mhm,
business. Um, when you're a coach for business, maybe so there's two ways I always look when I think about business. I'm thinking about this business that offer services and there's business that offer product.
mhm.
So when you're a coach, are you focusing on business that offer products or business that offer services? And when you get in there, what
Yeah.
exactly your strategy to kind of coach these people?
So, I think that there's a misconception on the coaching industry,
Yeah.
because I think for people who are in the service industry, or you're selling products or whatever, you need different people to support you through that process.
Mhm.
So you perhaps need a mentor that's gone the path and experienced the success that you want that can help you reach that level of success. Maybe you need training to
Mhm.
help you learn certain skills. And then you need a coach like myself that can help you deal with the mental and emotional things that are getting in the way of you achieving the success that you want to achieve. So that's what I do as an executive business coach is I help high level executives, especially those who have an adoption story, get out of their own way to get past the mental mindset blocks, the limiting beliefs, the things that are stopping them from seeing their own value, from seeing opportunities, from finding the thing about them that's unique to
Yeah.
build their brand, to build their business, to have really good relationships with their people in their company or their business, to lead from a heart space, from an authentic place where they're truly following their purpose. A lot of times they chase dollars,
Yeah.
not value and purpose. And they can make millions of dollars. They're wildly successful, but desperately unhappy.
Still be empty. So what's the difference? Like the way I'm listening to you, I'm thinking,
Mhm.
what's the difference between you as a coach in a spiritual way for
Mhm.
people to understand to switch to kind of switch the value of their like not where to be like thinking like to end up valuing so much of money instead of valuing
Mhm.
the purpose or I'm trying to figure a way to say this. It's in my head I was like, you sound like a therapist. Almost. Like
So, yeah, so a therapist is going to help you deal with past traumas
mhm,
to become healthy.
yeah,
I'm helping you who have a healthy brain, you're just getting in your own way.
yeah,
So I'm not trying to help you heal traumatic wounds. That is a perfect
that's
example of why you would go to a therapist, right? Like
yeah,
I've been physically, sexually abused, mentally abused. There's deep traumas that I need to work through
that's a
that requires
therapist.
a therapist.
Okay.
And maybe there are issues where you need a psychologist or a psychiatrist where you need, medicinal help, right? You need that chemical balance. That's not what I do. What I do is help someone that is just self sabotaging
Mhm.
and not even aware of it. They're just really, really stuck and they're unhappy in life and they don't know why.
And so this is different even from an advisor then is way because I'm thinking in my head so I'm going about again I'm thinking
Yeah,
is
there's
that
a little
different
bit
from an
of in
advisor? Yeah.
yeah. In my coaching, I wear different hats. So there are times I put on a consultant hat and I'm really telling them advising them on what to do.
Mhm.
So, a good coach knows that there's a line that they don't cross into therapy. I don't cross into someone that if you have, thoughts of self-demise or suicide, we're gonna get you help. I can't do that. But if
Yeah.
you need direction on building your brand,
Mhm.
if you need direction on who am I in this place and how do I lead from a better place and have experienced um, true personal success so that I can go lead my company or scale my company. We get to the mindset matters first, the confidence matters, the internal, and then
Mhm.
we turn it outside. So there's two levels of KPIs in my coaching. So there's the key people influencers, and then there's the key performance indicators. And so we deal with the key people or the key personal influencers first. So what's personally influencing me to do the things I do, feel the things I feel, and
Mhm.
be the things I be, right? What am I doing to get in my own way? Who else is getting in my own way? Once I get that solid, then I can lead my company to a place of scale.
Let's do this. Let's dumb it down. Like you've seen those books for say uh
uh
something to
Microsoft for Dummies.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go. Let's take example. Let's go to explain almost like a second grade. So let's take example.
Mhm.
Me,
Okay.
I'm a founder. I have a startup. that I'm developing. I'm trying to go to the market. At the same time, trying to develop a team. But at the same time, as a founder, either there are so much ways pulling me from a bunch of different sides. Either I'm trying to fundraise, I'm talking to investor, I'm talking to the team, trying to motivate them to do good. But at the same time, it's like some of them they get it, some they might not get it. Like they are not seeing the vision, even if you explained like 100 times about the vision,
Yeah.
how they should be excited. Because all this team, they are more um, each one has a different value. Either some of them they are motivated by money, they are
Mhm.
motivated maybe what they are creating, they are motivated like random things that. So how do you end up creating even just a culture from that company, from that startup, and just using this coaching from you, like where you don't end up becoming like a dictator in a way?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I think it's really, really important for anyone that has a team or you have a business, especially, to understand that no one is ever going to care about the success of your business as much as you do.
like you do. Yeah,
No
yeah,
one's going to work as hard as you do. No one should ever
yeah.
work as hard as you do in your business. They're never going to show up the way that you do. So to expect them to have that level of passion about what you're passionate about is unrealistic. So that's the first thing I really want all business owners to understand
Just true.
is that no one's ever going to care about this as much as you do.
Mhm.
You can't motivate them, you can't pay them, you can't incentivize, and you can't punish them enough to care about what you care about.
That's so true. Yeah.
So, but with that said, you have to lead from that place because they will never, ever aspire to be anything beyond what you give them as your example.
Yeah.
So, if you show up at 10 a.m., you dang sure can't expect them to show up at 8. You're never going to lead them to a place that you're not leading, that you're not going.
Mhm.
And so, for me, with my executives that I work with, we start with the pillars, the VIP pillars: value, integrity, and influence, and then purpose. And so, once you know and you're solid, you know that you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, then you can lead others and inspire them to follow you.
Yeah.
And so if you're just trying to manage people into submission, it's always going to feel like a fight.
Mhm.
And if you're not finding the right key people for your business, those KPIs, you need to find the key people for your business before you can have performance indicators. Leading, lagging doesn't matter. You've got to have the key people in place
Yeah.
that are the right fit. And so, finding those people are key.
Okay. Okay. So, um, when you how can people find you first? How do people get involved, or how do company or founders getting involved with you? Do you end up also creating like a strategic, like say, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3? Do you have something like that to kind of trying to learn first what motivate them, or um,
Yeah, so we do some assessments. I do a lot of pre work before we start our coaching because I can't coach you to a place unless I know where you are,
mhm,
know where you want to go, and know why. And so those are the three things that I feel like every leader, every business owner needs to personally know. So if you don't know it and you can't describe it to me, how can I take you there? How can you go there? It's like being in a car without a roadmap. You can
yeah,
drive for hours and hours and hours, but you're never going to arrive at your destination because you don't know where that destination is.
yeah,
So yeah, we do a lot of assessments. I do a personality assessment. I do a values assessment. I do an energy assessment, and I use human design in my coaching. And so understanding who
human
you
design,
were,
human
human design.
design. Okay, yeah, let's yeah.
Yeah,
What is
human design.
uh-huh.
So it tells you who you were designed to be. It's pretty amazing. And so knowing those things about yourself And you can do that with your leadership team or your staff, to know you have the right people in place for certain roles, because you could be really, really good at something, but not passionate about it. And you're not as successful. You're not as effective. Just because I'm really good at accounting, doesn't mean that that should be the career that I have. And that's what ended up happening is I was really good. I could work in banking all day long.
Yeah.
Financial advisory, I was really good at it. I hated it.
Yeah.
It wasn't my heart calling. So just because I was good at it didn't mean that that was what I should do. So same thing for your people. Just because they went to school to become an attorney and they passed all the bar exams and they started, doesn't mean that's
Passionate
who they
about it.
should be in your role. So
Yeah.
getting those key people in place are really key.
Mhm.
Key. I keep saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you have a podcast called Rock Movers.
I do.
What is a rock mover?
So for me, we don't get to, I'm 53, so I don't get to 53 without having a little bit of baggage along the way. So my adoption story was a bag, or a rock, I should say.
Let's,
And we
let's
carry the,
question. You don't have to be lying to people you're 53. You said 52, 50. You're like 30, 31, and you're over here lying to people yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I'm having the 23rd anniversary of my 30th birthday.
Awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations.
But thank you for that compliment.
Yeah. That's awesome. Like
So
for people that they will listen to the voice. She's over here talking about, but she looked like she's 31. You know. Maybe even 20 something. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll go with that. That's not bad. I'll go with that. So sorry, I'm gonna make sure that my internet
You're
good.
forgetting the anniversary date, or you making sure you have the anniversary?
I'm making sure. How old am I? I have to look at my birthday. Nope.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times.
I'm 53. It's proven.
Yeah, done that couple
But
of times.
along the way, we experience things, and hard things happen to us, and they kind of become those rocks that we put in our bags that we carry.
Rock movers.
And so my one of the talks that I did for a lot of women's groups was about carrying these bags and how they become so heavy, but we get to choose from the day that we're aware that we're carrying them. We get to choose whether we want to continue doing that. And I say you can remove the rocks. So the things that were hard that you put in your bag, the things that you felt like happened to you, you can take those out and keep the lesson that it taught you, or the thing that it helped you become, and remove that rock and put it down underneath your feet, and it becomes the path that you build for others coming behind you.
Yeah.
And so you're moving rocks and building paths. And my podcast came out of that because I found that there's a lot of amazing people in the world that are moving rocks for themselves, for others, and I just wanted to share their voices with the world.
Perfect. That's awesome. Before we go, and I know I read about this on your profile, talking about alpha male and alpha female at workplace.
Yeah.
Can you get into that? What is that?
Yeah. So if you think about out in the wild, like a pack of wolves, they have an alpha that's the leader. And then so they have an alpha male and the alpha female, and those are usually the predominant leaders of that pack.
Yeah.
Well, in society, we're basically inherent animals, but there are people that are more dominant personalities. They rise to the top of leadership. And so some people are more of the introverts. They're more reserved and back. And then there are those that are the dominant personalities. And so some people want to aspire to be more alpha, more dominant.
Yeah.
Some people, it's just a natural instinct. But as an alpha personality or an alpha characteristic, you still have to work with everyone. And for alpha men, sometimes working with a really strong men personalities, very bold, very domineering, maybe more, if you're familiar with the DISC profile, they're more drivers.
Mhm.
Working with someone that is equally as driver as you is sometimes very hard.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a company and you have a lot of strong personalities or alpha type personalities who really just come in, they take charge, they maybe kind of bulldoze over, and they haven't learned how to work with each other, that can be very catastrophic for a company. So learning how to understand yourself and how to work with others without overstepping, without having a catastrophic failure
Yeah.
is really important, especially in high level executive positions, because you can run a company into the ground just by being too domineering.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't want to work for someone that they can't respect and enjoy and feel valued.
Mhm. Yeah. Dude, question another another question before we go. I was thinking about the way you're talking about coaching either founder or CEOs. Can this
Mhm.
coaching also work? Like, let's say a corporation. Let's say take example too, like me. Let's say I have my company. I have
Mhm.
I have 50 employees, or maybe with partners, whatever. Instead of focusing on a CEO, can you also help the team to
Yeah.
perform at their best? Like, meaning also they will get. I don't know how you're set up.
Mhm.
Do you go like maybe you have one by one? They come in your office, you talk to them, you get to know them, and can you set up something like that also where you're helping the employee also to
Yeah.
to perform better, kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my Gray Legacy Partners, which is the top of my company.
Mhm.
Coaching is an area of that company. So I have coaching, consulting, and training.
Mhm.
So if you have a manager or an owner that wants to have their team get support to work together more cohesively, or to begin to work with their leadership, yeah, we do that as well. It's really key for people to understand themselves and then the people that they're working with, because sometimes just that knowledge and understanding gives you a level of understanding, maybe a little more grace. If I know this is how you make decisions, then I can now communicate with you. It's all about emotional intelligence
So
for me.
wait, so the coaching, is it more, so you talking
Mhm.
about more geared toward management, either like managers or supervisor, whatever. I'm talking more like also the employee individual. Like, let's
Mhm.
say if I
Yeah.
have if my have my whole thing set up, let's say I have my office set up, I have the 50 employees and all that.
Mhm.
Is it Would it be more easy for, say, like, say I hire you, or hire like in-house person, like a coach person? I don't know if that's the name should be called, if it's in-house coach person, that where employee get to talk to them more to kind of motivate them, or to kind of help them
Yeah.
find their purpose. Kind of, is that, can you, or is it more geared toward management and
Um,
supervision?
Coaching can be adapted to
Mhm.
any purpose. I think it's really understanding what is the reason, why are we coaching,
Yeah.
and then we adapt our coaching to meet that need. So if you're just wanting, for an example, your situation that you gave me,
Mhm.
your employees to get individual support to be their best selves,
Yeah.
then absolutely, I think helping them understand who they are, how they operate, how they can function best, what's getting in their way of achieving their best self,
Yeah.
makes the team stronger. And if the whole team is receiving that same coaching, then they're all getting the same information and then can begin to cohesively understand each other better and begin to work together on common goals as well as individual goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it does go back to emotional intelligence, that EQ of knowing everybody operates differently. Just because you don't speak my language or speak it in a way that I understand it doesn't make me right, you wrong, or vice versa. It's just communication.
Perfect. Perfect. Karen Gray, executive
Yeah,
business coach and brand consulting.
thank
Thank you so
you.
much. I really appreciate for taking the time to chat with me. And I know we were supposed to just kind of chat for, for like 45 minutes. We pushed to like 1 hour. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for coming to the headliners. Anything you would like to leave if you were to say something to a last, you can leave
last
something.
parting thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, thank you for asking such great questions and really being willing to go to a space to offer this. Um, I believe that anyone and everyone can benefit from working with a coach.
Mhm,
It's really about committing to your own success and what does it take to get there. And if you don't have the ability to work with a coach, then you can coach yourself. There's tons of resources out there. There's tons of information, but the key piece that coaching offers is the accountability and that opportunity to mirror for you to hear and have someone be your thinking partner. That's truly what a coach can do to offer you that support. So I just would love to speak with anybody that's interested in that or help you find the right coach for you because I know lots of amazing ones.
yeah. For me, before we go, for me, I was just suggest just find a coach, because now you're talking about teaching yourself. That means now you're taking your time from focusing on your business, try
Mm,
to learn some other stuff, where actually bouncing idea or talking to a coach, actually I think is a great idea, because it just kind of exposes you to a new different level of,
absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, Karen, thank you so much again for taking the time
Thank
to talk.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it so much, Edward. It's just been fun.
Thank
Love this conversation and
you.
can't wait to share you with my Rock Mover family.
Awesome, thank you so much. Just give me a second.